Nick speaking, and welcome to this Warhammer 40k podcast, including community comments. And today we're asking the question, is the 10th edition Necron Reanimation Protocol rule the best version so far? And it's coming right up.
Necrons!
So, I've been playing Necron since 3rd edition. That's a very long time. I've played every edition since, but what edition has had the best reanimation protocol rules? Well, I asked this question to my community. I'm going to go through those community answers. We're going to discuss RP, and we're going to talk about maybe how RP will or might change in 11th edition. So, hit the like button and let's get to it. Okay, so I asked a question, is 10th edition the best version of RP that we've had? And here are the comments. First of all, from 18 Wadjet, who said, I'm absolutely okay with it. A good first comment. Dirty Blonde 1011 says, I only started playing in mid-9th, so I can't really say for certain if it's the best one we've had. That said, either I'm unnaturally lucky with my rolls, or it's the strongest version of the two that I've worked with. So yeah, for those players who haven't played all the editions, maybe you've just played 10th edition. In 9th edition you had this like dice pool mode, so when models were killed, let's just say a Locust Destroyer was killed, you had 3 dice for their 3 wounds, and you rolled the dice and you had to get 3 5s to get that model back. Basically each 5 was a wound back, so it was quite hard to RP units which had more than 1 wound. And on the flip side to that, back in, I think it was 8th edition, where you actually could bring back whole models with all of their wounds when you RP'd, and 9th edition just flipped that on its head, and it was better for single modelled units. Of course, 10th edition doesn't really benefit one or the other. You just roll a d3 and that's how many wounds you get back, and I think that is generally better. I think they've hit the sweet spot between single and multi-wounded units. And not only that, but in 10th edition every single unit can RP, and previous editions that's not been the case. So yeah, if you're not very good at rolling high, you'll probably find there's a bit more consistency with 10th edition. Even though it's only a D3, of course, yes, you can buff it and enhance it, but the general rule is just a D3 amount of wounds back. There's not that much of a difference between rolling a 1 and a 3. In reality, you know, it's not like you're going to get 6 back and then just 1 back. It's like 1 or 3 wounds back. So probably a little bit more consistent, unless you're really good at rolling dice. 40k.at48 says, I just hope I can build and paint an army and get to play 10th edition before they change everything. Well, good luck with that. Yeah, things obviously do change. They change all the time. So yeah, good luck in getting it built. Obviously we know that 11th edition isn't too far away. Best guess for me is going to be summer next year. I think that's the most likely. Craig Holland 4126 says, feels about right to me. We've also got a comment from Ethan Rodriguez Gomez, who says, I've only played 9th and 10th, but I think that out of the two I prefer 10th. And then we have OK Tabletop, who says, it seems to be a clever mix of RP and living metal. That's right, we had living metal previously as well as the RP rule. On a side note, I wish we had Dynasties command protocols again. I like the customization opportunities. Detachments are fine, but I miss the diverse options of prior editions. And that's 10th edition all over, isn't it? They've tried to make everything so simple and easy, although obviously we do have bloat, but let's not talk about that. The general rules, the general concept, especially when it comes to list building, you've got your detachments, there's no war gear and options to pay for apart from enhancements. And it's so simple that maybe too simple, and those opportunities to have a bit more diversity between the different armies has sort of disappeared a little bit for sure. Mini Mike 80 says, I played only 2nd and 3rd edition, maybe 4th, not sure anymore, 9th and now 10th edition. So most reanimation I don't know, and for the first reanimation as Necrons were released, I don't remember. But compared to 9th edition, it was way better. I remember for more wound models in 9th, it was nearly impossible to reanimate them. I really celebrated last edition when a Skorpek came back, for example. As like now, they could come back at least with a wound or so. That's way better, and I hope they don't screw that up with the new edition. And yeah, I agree with you there. I think it is way better. It's more consistent across the whole army. The whole army can get it, and it's not biased to certain units in the game. I can't really comment on 2nd edition Necrons, the Necron Raiders. I don't know if they had RP or how it worked. As I said, I started in 3rd edition. Now I'm going to talk about 3rd edition RP a little bit later because I have specific comments on it. But for now, yes, I do actually agree with you that in 10th edition, the RP does seem to be a little bit more consistent. I think RP was definitely at the forefront of list building in 9th edition, as it has done in other editions as well. But I think in 10th edition, whilst obviously you have RP and it's beneficial to you, and yes, you might consider taking a bigger unit rather than a smaller unit in some cases because of RP, it doesn't feel like most list builds are built around RP. Some list builds are, especially maybe Awakened Dynasty, but you don't have to do it that way, whereas previously I think you had to. It's the best literation so far. I kind of miss just the straight up rezzing on a 4+ like we did back in 3rd edition. Again, I'm going to talk about 3rd edition RP a little bit later, but thank you Wild Marge 0270 for your comment. Next we have Fox Unix 101 who says, I love it and been playing since 8th edition. It works on all units, which it did not really in some editions. I never got Skorpeks back in 9th. Haha. And yeah, another comment on 9th edition and Skorpeks particularly. Very difficult to get those multi-wounded miniatures back. I know a lot of people, maybe people who preferred to play Necron Warriors, loved 9th edition for that. But certainly if you're playing multi-wounded models, which personally I love playing Wraiths and Destroyers and Heavy Destroyers, and it certainly didn't benefit them as much as maybe it did on single miniatures. Of course, a 5+ though as well, so it was tough unless you built a list around it with the Ghost Arcs and the Resorbs, etc. Scaife says 10th edition version is my favourite. 9th was cool for 1 wounded models, but was pointless on things like Canoptic Spiders. 10th's worthwhile on every unit, and it's an easy design complementing abilities and strats around it. And yeah, I agree. Mastermind77 says 9th was the most fun to use, very reactive. And that was true, it was reactive because as soon as the model died you did your RP, whereas now you do it in the command phase. I think it is simplified just in the command phase. It's a bit easier to keep on top of things and also makes the games a bit quicker, but it certainly was a lot more reactive previously. Tyler Holmes 2727 says, my favourite for nostalgia purposes is still 2nd edition version. As I said, I've never played that. But seeing how things have changed, it has been distilled down to what we have today. And I must admit, it's simple and yet so effective. It is fair to say that Games Workshop over some editions have struggled to really get RP right, and not just RP, but the points you pay per model for the RP ability. Obviously there's quite a few other armies now that can regenerate and get wounds back. I mean, orcs can do it. Most armies have some sort of, I'm going to get some wounds back, stratagems or abilities. So maybe GW are just getting better at that type of rule. However, certainly in some editions they've struggled. Either it's been one extreme, too weak, or another extreme, too powerful, just not balanced with the whole of the army. But 10th edition seems more balanced, more viable, and works across the army in a very similar way. Mighty Madcap says the wound pool mechanic is pretty boss. Also, we miss Necron Girl. I miss Necron Girl as well. Well, actually I don't, because she lives with me. But I do miss her on the channel. However, just in case you didn't see my video where I explained what was happening with Necron Girl, basically she just doesn't want to be on my videos anymore. She's quite happy me using the Necrons clips, which I've previously used, but of course I don't put her image on there anymore. It's fair enough, she's 17. I was hoping to have a different clip of her every single year as she grew up so you guys could see it, but it's not happening. Maybe one day she will make a return.
Necrons!
Okay, so next we've got a comment from a channel without a channel name, or at least the channel name's not showing up on my comment. But they've said, I'll be back was the best. So 3rd edition, it wasn't called RP, it was called Will Be Back, and 100% a rip-off from the Terminator film where Arnold Schwarzenegger, the Terminator, says, I'll be back. Yes. Okay, so was it the best? It certainly was very powerful. You RP'd on a 4+, and Necrons were very difficult to kill, especially Necron warriors at the time, who were the staple of the force with a 3+ save. And with RP, and the warriors used to go down, and then they used to come back up. You used to drag your dead warriors with you. If the unit died, those warriors that were on the floor used to go and join another unit. You used to be able to teleport the units through the monolith and then do your will be backs again. It was very powerful. But on the flip side to that, when you lost 75% of your army phased out. It disappeared. You lost your whole army once you lost 75% of it. The phase out rule, I quite liked it because it made Necrons. It made them very thematic and it was pretty cool, but from a gaming point of view it wasn't the best, and I was quite pleased when they got rid of it. But I do have some very, very, very fond memories of playing Necrons in 3rd edition. When I first started playing 40k, I had so much fun with the 3rd edition codex, even though the codex was with me for 10 years before they updated it. I really enjoyed that codex. However, yes, we did have a very limited amount of units that we could take, and to benefit from the RP you had to have another unit of the same type on the table, and I think you had to have the Lord within 6 inches of the unit, something like that. I can't remember all the quirkiness of it. Very powerful, but really made you play a certain way. So Warhammer Pod says it's probably one of the fairest ones for sure. Weird Duck Wrong Painting says, I do like this one, better than 8th or 9th, definitely. Dave Wheeler UK says, are you drunk? It's 4th edition. As long as one model is on the board, you can resurrect. So yeah, 4th edition was basically the 3rd edition Necron Codex, which I've just discussed. And I'm not drunk, even though my surname is Beer. Yes, that's right, my name is Nick Beer, hence the channel name. But yes, I am not drunk. I do like 3rd edition, and We'll Be Back was really good from a certain point of view, and it suited the Necrons as it was then. But I think as Necrons are now, with all of the additional units and coverage of rules that we have, GW have done the best they've done with the new set of miniatures and the new set of rules. Or at least, that's what I think. Now, if you want to get involved in the conversation, of course, comment below. Okay, so let's move forward now and talk about what Reanimation Protocol could be like in 11th edition. Obviously, we have no idea what 11th edition is going to bring, but it's quite interesting talking about it, isn't it? So, as we've obviously determined, we think that 10th edition is pretty good. I mean, it's not overpowered, but it's pretty decent. It does the job that it needs to do. And we've also talked about the fact that Games Workshop have struggled over the years getting RP correct. It's not a perfect RP system as it stands. There are some units I feel it doesn't benefit them quite as much as maybe others, but I do feel it's pretty solid, and my fingers are crossed that they almost take this RP that we have at the moment over to 11th edition, depending of course on the set of core rules that the game is going to have, the game mechanics, how's it going to work. We need the game mechanics before you can insert your reanimation protocols to make sure that it sort of matches what the game does. Personally, I would like to see something better for the Resurrection Orb. I mean, it's pretty good. You get D6 wounds extra back when you pop the Resurrection Orb off, but it's just once per game. I'd like to see something not quite as swinging. At the moment, it's 1 wound back or 6 wounds back. I'd like to see it not just a once use only thing. Maybe if your unit has a Resurrection Orb in it, you get +1 to the RP roll every time you RP, or something like that. We've got so many characters to sort of deal with in the Codex at the moment, and the Overlord sometimes gets a little bit overshadowed. I say the Overlord, I mean in my head he's always the Lord. He is the Necron Lord. I know we've got a Necron Lord, I know it's in Legends, but the Overlord's taken over from the Lord. He should be the mainstay, the staple of the army. And I feel like to get that into the army a little bit more, Resurrection Orbs should be a little bit better. I'd like to see the range of the Reanimator go up slightly. At the moment it's 3 inches. I think at one point it was 12 inches. It's 3 inches at the moment. I'd like to see that to be maybe 6 inches, potentially. I mean, there's a few little tweaks you could make to change the RP, but I think on the whole what we have is pretty good, and I hope that Games Workshop are not too drastic in their changes to RP going forward to 11th edition. Now, if you want to get in on the action for these podcasts, you can go over to my community tab. I've got some posts on there which I'm going to use to discuss in a podcast, and you can make some comments, and maybe I'll read your comment in a future podcast. In the meantime, here is a playlist for you to go and check out the other podcasts.